Good morning. We're here today with Ian Emerson, director of the Northern Studio from Carey Jones Champman Tolcher Studios. Good morning, Ian. How are you?
Good morning, Andrea. Yeah, good. Nice to see you.
It's good to see you. Okay, can you please introduce yourself and the company and the what we're going to be talking about later, the Junction project?
I'm Ian Emerson, director at Carey Jones Champman Tolcher. Our lead studio, basically, I run. We've got a London studio as well. We've got about 40-year history in Leeds, and we've worked on so many things in Leeds. Clarence Docks is a big one. We've worked across the city centre with offices, and most recently, and most high profile currently, is the Junction, just beyond Wellington Place.
Fantastic. So, one of your press releases, you did mention that it has been a bit of a bumpy ride on the project because it had started just before the pandemic. Can you please tell us more about the milestones you have achieved and where you are at the moment and potential update on the project?
I suppose where we are at the moment to start with, phase one completed in March last year. That's now fully let. Native for operating the building. They've got the team down there that's doing a fantastic job on lettings. Phase one completely let. Phase two was handed over in October, which is the sort of the taller canal house building, which is the 22-story building on the canal side. That's now open and 95% let. So they've done a great job. They're most of the way through 675 homes, I suppose, proving demand is there for this sort of accommodation.
So vacancy percentage is quite high.
Oh, it's like 5%. We're down at 5% vacancy. It's only been open for phase two's been open for about 4 months. So I think it's been a massive success. I think the challenges of getting there, I think, like the whole world. I mean, this job started in early 2020. So January 2020, we had no real idea what was going to come down the road in 10 weeks' time. So at that point, the contract was let and we were sort of on with groundworks, and then the world ground to a halt, didn't it? We all paused because everyone paused at that point and took stock. But I think the interesting thing, I think, with the whole contracting world, I suppose, at that point in time was that contractors are set up to deal with health and safety. It's a massive part of their day is processing safety on building sites. So we were quite fortuitous in that most of the work at that point was quite light. It was all outside. We were digging around in the ground. We weren't doing anything significant indoors. But we pretty much rolled continuously through that period. By the time we got to July, August, whenever those sort of local lockdowns started and we sort of lifted a little bit and it became a bit easier to deal with, I think we'd all probably got used to what it meant to a degree. We all wore masks. We all washed our hands completely 24 hours a day. Every time you touched anything, you're washing your hands and sanitizing yourself. So by that point, the expectation of what you had to do had been set. And by the time we started building this concrete frame of these 5 buildings, Galliford tried the contractor, had got the head around how you manage it as a health and safety process. So we really just rolled through that quite successfully. I mean, it's caused minor delay over the course because it always does do. You know, any new regime is going to be tested, but actually it didn't really affect it. But I think partly fortuitously, partly because Galliford Try did a great job, and partly because contracting generally is set up to deal with that sort of process. You know, it's rather than it's just about climbing cranes and falling from height, it's now falling from height and wash your hands. So I think we moved on very quickly through that process, to be fair. Yeah, and Galliford Try did a great job, to be fair.
Okay, so what is your marketing strategy to get 100% of the residency then?
I think the final 5% will vanish. I think it's just a matter of time. I don't think there's a massive strategy. I think there's an interesting model happening here. So it's a build to rent development. So build to rent is the idea that it's a big number of flats that's all managed centrally by one company and forms a community. So you get community spaces in there. So the Junction's got communal lounges, co-working spaces, private dining that you can hire. It's got a gym. It's got an outdoor gym. There's commercial spaces that fall out of this the viaduct arches as well. So I think the whole model is that you create communities. You know, the Junction team down there doing a fantastic job in terms of classes and events, and they have cinema nights, and they have yoga, and they have communal training sessions in the gym. So I think it just builds and builds on itself. And I think the build to rent market's relatively immature in Leeds at the moment. You do have some big developments in the Junction, the Moda scheme at New York Square. You have the Tower Works scheme at Mustard Wharf. But actually, there's a lot of capacity, a lot of pipeline for these sort of developments coming forward. I mean, as a company, we're working on about 2,500 more build to rent homes in Leeds at the moment. And it's how you position these things, I think, what they bring to the market that's unique about that development. So if you fall into the Junction for a minute, the Junction is unique because it has this massive piece of infrastructure, Victorian infrastructure that sits at the heart of it, the Grade 2 listed viaduct that is Mudbridge, and the sort of elevated park that's created is unique to that development. And what that's allowed us to do is to bury all of the sort of plant spaces and car park, bike stores, and the things that nobody really wants to see are buried at a low level below that. And all of the apartments and all of the fun stuff is located at the first floor off the viaduct. So you walk down that green space and you go straight into your building. You go straight into your communal spaces. And that's the uniqueness of that proposition, I suppose. It becomes a unique thing that is located on this fantastic piece of Victorian infrastructure. And that's where it works well, I think, built to rent as a model. It's something that will always be unique and have a degree of prestige in living in that sort of development, I think. And I think, interestingly, I think it starts to spread and create development around it. I mean, we're working on the two adjacent sites, the Latitude sites for Hub, going to be operated by Real Star, Uncle's brand. And, there's another 950 homes going in there. So between the sort of Junction and the Latitude sites adjacent, we're going to be at about 1,600 homes in this area. And it's about real regeneration, a sort of canal side location and a historic industrial piece of infrastructure. And an extension of the city to the southwest beyond Wellington Place. I think within Leeds traditionally, that river has cut off development and it stayed city side of the river north effectively. And this is starting to eke the city back out that way effectively and really bring some city centre residential use back into the city. And a variation of that offer rather than just being market sale flats. You can rent high quality accommodation that is well located, is modern, does have a community aspect to it. And it's interesting to see it sort of develop as a city at the moment. I mean, we worked on Wellington Place, we mastered on Wellington Place 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And this development is an extension of that piece. It follows the same axis through the old rail line. It does build on the principles of Wellington Place, but rather than being commercial, it's residential. And the two start to work hand in hand, and it's genuine regeneration at that point, and it's self-supporting effectively. So it's an interesting proposition at the moment, I think. And we're not the only company doing build to rent, but we have got quite a lot of it at the moment. And I think that we're always focused on the uniqueness of the proposition and why it's an interesting thing, rather than just putting as many things as we can onto a building site, because that doesn't create sustainable communities, sustainable development.
Fantastic. Look, Ian,
sorry, that was quite a long piece. But
it's good. Thank you very much, Ian. It's been amazing. Look, if you would like to know more, please visit the website for not only the project that Ian just described, but also for other developments throughout Leeds. Thank you.
Thank you very much.